Welcome to The Secret Witch Show, the podcast providing a safe and alchemical altar space of conversations which help powerful women escape a half-hearted, spiritless society and rediscover the freedom of living a wildly magical life. Every other week, we explore how to cast aside the wounds of shame, guilt, and fear connected with fully being yourself, so you can grant yourself permission to stop hiding, ground soulfully back into your body, illuminate your whole soul desires, tend your soul, rediscover and reclaim your powerful gifts, express your magic, and manifest your wildest alchemy. There's no better place to become who your heart longs to be. This is where we will guide you into liberation. I'm your host, Nicole Barton, and I'm so excited to dive in. Hello, magical ones. Welcome to the show. In today's modern world, women are living mundane lives and selling themselves short to secure the love, approval, and safety of a spiritless society instead of living as their magical, powerful, soulful selves. So, I've created a beautiful, free new moon circle to take the tender first steps into living your wild alchemy. It's called Manifesting with the Moon, and it's a monthly gathering of witch sisters seeking to manifest magical lives on their terms. Get up close and intimate with me and book your free ticket to join us at www.nicolebarton.co.uk/moon-circle. Welcome, loves. In today's episode, I am delighted to be freestyling on one of my favourite topics, manifesting from soul. This is the work that I was put here to do, so it's a really juicy one for me as a wild witch. Most secret witches have been familiar with traditional self-help teachings of manifestation, which often focus on the universe providing their material desires. But manifesting from soul is more about seeing how you are the powerful co-creator, and that manifestation is really about becoming who you long to and who you came here to be. In this episode, I illuminate how manifestation isn't just witch play, but real magical technology that will help you powerfully create your life. I share how to manifest from soul in alignment with your heart's deepest desires and longings, and how to understand the role of fear and how to take aligned actions in the direction of soul regardless. This episode calls you to have the courage to step into manifestation that will have you be who you have always longed to be. Let's dive in. Welcome, magical ones. So today I am playing with a very new way of creating, which is more feminine. I have ditched the script, and those of you who joined me at my monthly Manifesting with the Moon gathering will know that this is something that I am embracing in order to liberate my perfection shadow. So I'm welcoming you on that journey with me, and there's a bit of an intro into this episode, which I'm going to be sharing a little more about that later on. But to get started, this episode is about how to manifest in alignment with your soul. So so one of my perhaps actually one of my favorite topics is manifesting, particularly when you combine that with manifesting from soul. There's a lot in this, so I'm hoping it's going to be a really juicy episode for you. We've also got some questions from the wonderful listeners in the Facebook group, so I'm going to be coming to those at the end as well. But for now, I'm just going to dive right in. This really, I'm very excited about this topic because it's really the ultimate topic for secret witches. And again, when I talk about secret witches, I mean those powerful women who have been hiding their power, or who may not even know their own power. So when I talk about manifesting, when I talk about creating and being a secret witch and a wild witch, which is really the liberated witch, I'm not talking just about kind of witch play. This is powerful magical technology that we're talking about here. So there's a very big difference, and I just want to make this clear. There's a difference between witches playing with potions, which may well be where you've come from if you're listening to this, and that's perfectly part of the path. That's where I've also been. But there's a difference between that and powerful intentional magic, the use of magic as a kind of integral way of creating your life. So it's kind of really integral to life creation, this magic that we're talking about. So this is about you learning how to manifest in alignment with your soul. And I would love to know, given that we're talking about intention, because intention really is the key to all magic, and is certainly the key to manifesting in alignment with your soul. So I'd love to know to start with, and maybe if you're listening to this either now or at the end of the episode, you can let us know. Hop on over to our Facebook group, Secret Witch Circle, and let us know what your intention was. So just make a note of what your intention is for listening to this episode right now, and then at the end you can let us know whether that was something you fulfilled and got out of the episode. So I'm going to share with you my intention, because when I'm creating these episodes, although I say that I haven't got a script, it's still very much an intentional creation. And so I set off with an intention for each episode. So my intention for this episode particularly is to help people like you, secret witches, who are hiding their power, to see how to manifest in alignment with soul in a way that is very intentional. I'm going to highlight the difference between traditional manifestation and manifestation from soul, and talk a little bit about soul specifically, and how you can really get in touch with and responsibly manifest what is actually in alignment for you, as well as talking a little bit to how fear can stop you in that initial visioning and dreaming process. And ultimately my intention is to help you get in touch with your vulnerability about stepping into the path of soul and having the courage to choose to step deeper into that path if it's aligned for you. So again, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more on my vision for the episode in response actually to one of the questions that I was asked, because I had a little look at that prior to recording. So I won't go too much into that right now. But the best place I think to start is around exploring what manifesting from soul looks like. Now, often people who come to this path are quite familiar with maybe the kind of basics from self-help about manifesting, and that's wonderful. Again, I've kind of trodden that path myself, and personally had quite a lot of material things that I was able to manifest, so it was quite successful. But what I've come to see, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, that is perfect, but also there was a time where I wasn't creating anything and was creating life in a way that I didn't want. So that again is also perfect for wherever you are with manifesting right now. Just it's one to really witness for yourself, and also know that wherever you are is perfect. So there's just kind of more of the path that's becoming available to you if you continue to dive into this episode for number one and the path of soul. But really, the manifesting from soul specifically is ultimately about you creating and learning to create life from your unique gifts. So this goes slightly deeper than just manifesting your material desires. This is about really manifesting a life of magic and manifesting a life from who you came here to be. And this really is about you finding your unique gifts and manifesting life from there. And usually, particularly for the secret witch, this isn't something that you are yet doing. Usually there is a lot of shadow in the way, a lot of kind of unconscious stuff in the way of you being here, celebrating your unique gift and creating life from that space. Often there is a lot of stuff pushed into the dark a lot of shame, a lot of fear, a lot of unworthiness and self-doubt about your capacity to create. So if that is you, know that that is perfect. Again, you're here to learn to manifest from soul, and that isn't going to be something that you're already doing. So if it was, then you wouldn't be listening to this. So yeah, welcome all of that, and know that it's very welcome in my space. And again, the other side of that is that, and it's very common for lots of people coming to my circles, my manifesting circles, which by the way are once a month, called Manifesting with the Moon. So if you haven't joined us and you want to, they're free. Do feel free to get a ticket and come and join us. But a lot of people coming to circle, I've noticed, are really feeling the shame of not having created what they desire, and there's this sense of real shame about it. And what I wanted to speak to with that is that actually even that is kind of still in the way. So what we aim to do here is to bring love to all of the areas where we don't feel capable, where we don't feel like powerful creatrixes, and know that the good news is when we begin to own that everything in our life that we've created so far has been our creation, this offers us the potential to really harness that power of creation to create what we do want. So if you have noticed that the stuff that your life isn't really magical, it's not feeling the way that you want it to feel, the first step is to really own that that is still your creation, that you are a powerful creator and you've just been creating in the direction that is against soul. And there's several reasons why, which will probably become clear through this as to why you've been doing that. So the deeper invitation now is to harness your power in alignment with soul so that you can create what you came here to create. So you were put on this earth with your soul will of your unique gifts, and that is what you're here to create. So when we talk about manifesting in alignment with soul, it's really discovering our soul purpose, who we came here to be, and intentionally kind of honing our power to be able to manifest in alignment with that. And typically when we talk about manifestation in the kind of self-help world, that is not how it is taught. So typically self-help will teach you that you just kind of show up and trust the universe to provide whatever it is you want. So you might put out a wish and hope that the universe provides it to you. And then the other kind of way that people are kind of manifesting currently, typically in my experience of people walking this path, is that they potentially are forcing creation. And this again is something that is my tendency, is like I know that I can powerfully create a lot of stuff, but actually often it's in the very kind of burdening, forcing creation way, which is what has me show up as a perfectionist, creating multiple scripts for things and over planning and feeling quite burdened with the creation process. So again, those ways of being are not manifesting in alignment with soul. So when we talk about soul, manifesting with soul, it's really about us coming to see that we are magical co-creators. So we have this soul will, this thing that wants to be expressed as us, and we're co-creating in relationship with kind of universal will, God, divinity, love, whatever it is that you kind of call that, trusting the universe kind of idea. So we are very much in co-creation with that. So when we talk, when manifestation is talked about in self-help, often it is missing the element of soul, and that is what makes this path particularly unique, and also particularly responsible. Because if we're approaching manifestation from the idea that actually we can just manifest anything that we want, which we can, that's absolutely fine, But we might just head off in the direction of what we think from our heads is in alignment for us. So that could be, anything. But I actually had a debate with someone the other day who was talking about how people are wanting, if they want a Mercedes, they can manifest a Mercedes, and that is absolutely perfect. I've got nothing against that if that is what is in alignment for your soul, because usually the kind of bigger material desires are usually pointing you actually inwards towards seeing something a little bit deeper. And we're so used to creating from our heads, from what we think we want. And the deeper invitation here is to actually look for, what is it that we have come here to manifest? What is actually in alignment for our soul, for our hearts? And this tends to be a way that we can approach manifestation, not from fear, but actually from the heart and from what is actually aligned with our soul, with our heart. So this isn't about approaching manifestation from fear or perfection or seeking love, approval or safety in the external, but the deeper kind of more meaningful, more soul aligned way of being. So the thing about that, again, just one of my favourite quotes, which is something that my own coach shared with me a while back, is a quote by Aleister Crowley, which is, "Love is the law, love under will." And that's really the first rule, the first law of manifestation here, is that we are coming from love. And when we do that, we will feel the difference in our bodies. Not to say that you can't manifest material things from love. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. There's no judgment about trying to materially manifest things. I've manifested material things in my life that were absolutely, again, perfect for me at the time. And still, now I see that when I'm manifesting in alignment with what is in alignment for my soul and who I came here to be, that is so much richer and will also likely result in material manifestation as well, because when we've come here to express and show up in a big way to be of service to the world, which is ultimately what we're doing when we're aligning with our soul, then we do have requirements, material requirements, that will enable us to show up and live from that. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that we shouldn't manifest material things. I'm just saying that when the focus is from soul, it's so much more rewarding. So yeah, love is the law, love under will. And that basically means that anything we do is governed, really is created from love. And again, the way to feel into this, the way to know, is really only available to us in our body. So I've said before, probably, because I say it all the time, the body is the only place that magic can actually be created. It's the only place where, because magic is really transformation, it's the only place where we can actually experience transformation. So the first place to feel into manifesting from soul is really in the body. So just begin to notice when you are manifesting or playing with manifesting, or deepening that journey into manifestation. Notice how it feels in your body, what you're creating, where you're creating from, whether it's from the head, whether it's from the heart, and whether it's from the soul. So you will really feel the difference in your body. Again, if you're a secret witch, you're possibly and likely, I would say, not used to listening to your body. It's probably something you've been shutting down. So again, this is about opening you to the journey. This is about taking those tender first steps, and the invitation is to really start small. Just begin to notice your body, begin to play with magic in a way that helps you to harness your power. And I say this because it's kind of important to start small, especially when we're looking at soul aligned manifestation, because when we first start to get in touch with soul, it can be quite scary. And I say that because, again, as I talked about, there's a lot of shame, a lot of fear that can come in when we truly start to become ourselves. And particularly for witches, for magical women, when we think back to the times where witches were hunted and killed for being their magic, for being their truth, this will feel particularly pertinent to you if you are a magical one, because the threat of being yourself is actually very real. We were burned at the stake for being our true selves as witches. So often this journey is quite scary, and if we don't start small, then fear will come in and really try and kill our dreams and sabotage our vision, or just not let us see our soul's vision at all. And likely if you do kind of go jumping in, diving right into the huge changes, you'll likely also be unequipped to deal with them at this point in the path, because you haven't fully honed your power. So this is an invitation to allow yourself to journey deeper, but in those baby steps. And that is, again, something that's important to me for you to be able to allow yourself to do. And I'm going to share in a minute, actually, one of the meditations that I did in one of the Manifesting with the Moon circles. It's actually the first one, because it was actually quite a powerful introduction to visioning. And visioning really is one of the first ways that you can step into this journey and begin to manifest from soul. And I'll invite you to bring a sense of play and joy to it, because when we kind of practice that way, with that way of being, this kind of lightness, this playfulness, practicing on things that are perhaps rooted in love, that is the way that we begin to get in touch with our soul. We begin for our soul to know that it's safe to be expressed. So yeah, I'm going to invite you into this meditation now, and invite you to get comfortable. And then at the end of the show, maybe again, you'll pop into the Facebook group, Secret Witch Circle, or just email me and you can let me know, did the things that you practiced on happen? So yeah, I'm gonna go into a little meditation now, which is unusual for me in a podcast. I think I did this actually in one of the first episodes, which was about how to know if you're a secret witch, but I haven't actually done a meditation in the middle of an episode before other than that. So it's not usual, but hopefully it will be helpful. So yeah, make yourself comfortable. This really is your time to hone your creative focus and get in touch with the feeling of what you long to create. So you don't want any distractions. Make sure that your phone's off or on silent. And also, I say this because I've done it myself, don't be so comfy that you fall asleep either, because that's also a form of sabotage. Often when you feel your dreams are too big, your mind will create a way for you to not hear what you need to hear. So that's another cheeky way that shows up. But yeah, and also before we start, I just want to presence that this meditation today can be quite activating and may bring up some understandable fears, unworthiness, shame, lack of confidence. So before we go into it, I just want to invite you to grant yourselves permission here to dream without having to take action. And yeah, really just give yourself permission to hear what's there, hear whatever comes up. This is really about getting in touch with the deeper parts of your soul that know what's for you and your unique being, so that you can get more intimate with your kind of golden gifts and the magic you came here to be. So if the second you think you have to act on something will often immediately create a closure to any opening up that's happening. So it is important, just at least initially in this meditation, to give yourself permission to hear what's there and not act on it. And we'll be talking about aligned action a little bit later on in the episode after this meditation. But this really is the process of opening. So make yourself comfy. And we'll begin by closing your eyes. Grounding deeply into the body, taking some nice deep breaths. Really feeling how supported you are wherever you're sitting or lying now. Witnessing the space in your body, noticing where its soft edges meet the firmness of the ground, which which holds you and supports you beautifully. Place your left hand on your heart, the right hand on your belly. Feeling into the two areas which will teach you the most about manifesting from soul. These are your power centers. Take note of what they tell you as we move through this visualization. Be in dialogue with them, noticing the sensations, the ripples, the tensions that arise within the deep depths of you. Take a nice deep breath in and out, and begin to deeply and consciously relax all parts of you, letting go of your tension, noticing the space between your eyes, relaxing your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, and your belly. Allow yourself to let go. And let yourself feel safe here to become intimate with your body's signals. You're totally safe, totally held, totally free. Focus on your breathing, noticing how naturally the body supports your aliveness. And as you lie there, begin to notice any sensations arising within the body. Notice the way it beautifully offers you a guidance system, messengers that guide you, a gateway to your soul. Notice how grounded you are in your unique and glorious body, and what a magnificent gift this is. And I'm going to invite you into active appreciation now, and this is an intentional word because it's more active than gratitude. It's about what you have created. You're in the work of becoming a powerful creatrix. You've already been unconsciously co-creating with the universe. And now you're making this intentional, so you can become all that you are. This is your time to hone your focus on creating whatever you desire. Everything in your life as you have it right now has been created by you, the good and the bad. And this may come as a surprise because the secret witch is very good at creating what she doesn't want and giving her power away to think that she's at the mercy of life with it. But you're listening here today because you are already a powerful creatrix. Now you're aware of this, you begin to think of a time when you've created something really special. Something you really, really wanted to create. This memory is coming alive again as you imagine every detail. What was it that you created? Let that come to mind now as you visualize yourself back in that creation. What did it look like? What did it feel like to create something so magical? How did it feel in your body? What sensations arose when you'd created it? How expansive did you feel? How juicy and alive did you feel? How magical did you feel? Notice any sensations arising as you relive the experience of being in full abundance with your previous creation. As you do, you may notice other creations coming to mind, big and small. Might be things that you've created without realizing they were your creation. Might be things that it seemed the universe had provided, but it's you that's created them. How does it feel to be in complete abundance of creativity from your own majestic power? As you lie there, you feel deeply appreciative of the abundance of things you've created. You are worthy of receiving all of those things, and you're receptive and open to receiving whatever your heart longs for. You notice now you're sitting in a really beautiful place. It's your favourite place, and you're surrounded and held in love. You might be by the beach at sunset, surrounded by candles, in a circle of sisters. You might be in the middle of a forest, gathered around a fire pit. Wherever you are, you know you feel totally safe, totally held, totally connected, and so alive and magical. And as you're sitting there, you're dreaming about what your abundant life would look like in the future. This is becoming your future vision of how you want to feel. As you're visualizing it now, sinking into your senses, what can you taste? What can you smell? What can you hear? How does it feel to be totally abundant? You know how it feels. You can sense the rich juiciness of being full, of your heart feeling full, of your soul feeling magical. You see yourself stepping forwards now by a few months, maybe a few years, just forward into the future. Sensing deeper into your body. You begin to notice what your feeling of abundance looks like. What is your abundant self wearing? How would she move? How would she spend her days? What small signals light her up? Who would she enjoy time with? What relationships would she have? What would she create? What would she wear? What would she eat? How would life smell? Where would she live? What would she love? What would be her deepest, darkest, most secret desire? Who would she be? And if you can access her now, just remember the feeling of her. You don't have to act on anything. It's quite a big question, so if you can't get in touch with it yet, that's completely normal. We're going to be making some baby steps into the smaller steps that you want to take. What is something that seems simple, playful, joyful, loving, that you long to manifest right now? What do you long to create that's small enough that you can play with this way of being? What small soul-aligned step can you take towards the woman you long to become? I invite you to feel into your heart, noticing what's there, what you long to create. What do you long to focus on creating this month? What's one small, loving, aligned thing that you long to create that's for the greatest, highest good and comes from pure love? It could be, as one of our Manifesting with the Moon ladies manifested, it could be that you're given a bunch of flowers, which did actually happen. It could be something that you long to create for someone else. Now you've brought something to mind. Just begin to visualize this thing that you long to create. Visualize it as if it's happening right now in front of your eyes. Visualize yourself creating it. Visualize it at every stage of its creation, not getting into the how, but noticing how it feels to be creating it, to have created it. What does it feel like to be manifesting this thing to life? A specific intention might come to mind now, and I'd like you to invite one and create one. What is it? When you've created it, then turn it into a one-line intention that you can choose to speak out each day this month, honing your focus in the direction of this vision. Now place your hands on your heart and your belly and speak out your intention. Visualize yourself receiving it. Allow it. Visualize your heart open. And in your head or out loud, say, allow, allow, allow. Receive, receive, receive. It's done and it's done and it's done. And then just allow yourself to shake, to charge your intention, activate the feeling of who you can visualize yourself being right now. And I'm holding space for all of these juicy, loving intentions that we together as sisters are co-creating right now. This powerful cauldron as you're listening to this episode of How to Manifest in Alignment with Your Soul. It's done and it's done and it's done. So just come to the breath, come back to your body, placing your palms up, repeating the mantra, I am safe to receive my soulful dreams. Just going to end this meditation with a quote from the Upanishads, an ancient Sanskrit text that says, you are what your deepest desire is. As your desire is, so is your intention. As your intention is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny. The invitation is to take this practice and spend time embodying the energy of who you long to be, visualizing your dreams, focusing on your intention and how it feels. You are a powerful creatrix. Now gently begin to move your fingers and toes, coming back to the room, blinking your eyes open softly. And I'm going to continue sharing a little bit more about manifesting in alignment with soul. So, yeah, I hope that that was beautiful for you. I'd really love, as I said, to know what came up for you in that meditation. So please do hop on over to the Facebook group Secret Witch Circle and let me know there, or you can email me and I'll put the link to email me in the show notes. It's info@nicolebarton.co.uk. I would really, really love to hear what soul desires you have connected with in this episode. It would fill me with absolute joy. So please do reach out and let me know. I'd love to know also if you continue to focus on that and take the aligned actions required in order to create and manifest from soul. I'd love to know whether you were able to manifest those small steps, and I'm certain you will, but I would definitely love to hear examples of that. So do please reach out. Now, the next part of the path, as I just mentioned, is really about choosing, once we've got visibility of it, which may, by the way, take a few, it may take a while to really be able to access that beyond the fear, that vision for yourself. But when you have that vision, it's choosing really to devote yourself to it. And usually at that point, this is the point where fear does arise, and the invitation there is to be able to choose into it anyway if it is aligned for us. So one of the ways that this showed up as an example for me, as I said, with manifesting with the moon, my gathering monthly, was that I was finding that I was really over preparing and overburdening myself with all this preparation. And when I did the deeper work, which is usually required in order for you to fully devote consciously, when I did the deeper work, I began to see that this was being created from my perfectionism. So I was overburdening myself with perfectionism. And the reason, again, as I digged a little bit deeper into that, was that if I wasn't perfect, the old mundane story that I kind of narrowed it down to was that if I wasn't perfect, I wasn't lovable. And so that was having me create in a way that was not in alignment with my soul. So I have devoted myself to creating in alignment with soul. And actually, there are several devotions that I have. I am devoted to soul, magic, sovereignty, the feminine, and love. And again, love for obvious reasons, that I was not feeling lovable if I wasn't perfect. So love is kind of like the pinnacle devotion for me that feels really, really challenging. Soul, I've been devoted to for a while. I'm quite used to taking the aligned actions now, even though they feel very scary, very inconvenient. And I just wanted to point that out, because usually when we do get in touch with those deeper soul aligned desires, those are the ones that will feel edgy. So we often, I find that secret witches come to this journey expecting these soul journeys to be really fun, really enjoyable, really, which they are, but they expect them to be easy, I think. And so that's why I'm highlighting this, because actually, the more in touch with soul you get, likely the more fear will arise, as the example with my perfectionism. So the invitation is to really be able to feel into the body, to make that conscious choice as to what is aligned for you, regardless of the fear. Before you've even taken any action, whatever is scaring you, leave that to one side and really do dive into your body and see, is this aligned for me? And you will know from the signals that you're getting, from the kind of aliveness that's coming in for you in your body. And again, it might be that you're not familiar with these types of sensations, so it could take a while to even get to that point, which is, again, perfect. It's what I help women with along this path. So don't beat yourself up. Don't go into that perfectionism shadow and think, well, I'm not getting it, I don't understand, I'm not perfect enough, I'm just going to quit, because that is the opposite end of the perfectionism shadow. On one side, you've got the over-preparing, overburdening. On the opposite side, you've got doing nothing and giving up. And that is the tendency. Usually we're choosing it from an unconscious shadow that we're not aware really that we're choosing it, and we'll feel like we're victims to the choice that we've made, where we actually are always choosing life. So if we feel like we can't choose something, it's usually because there's some shadow in the way. So yeah, like my perfectionism, in fact, funnily enough, when I did the Manifesting with the Moon event and abandoned my script, choosing through the fear of overburdening myself, I then developed this sore throat. And that was this week, actually. And so you probably can still hear it's a little bit gravelly now, but it was really interesting because my initial reaction when I got the sore throat was, which by the way, I was using my voice, so it makes sense that it kind of manifested this, oh, well, I can't use my voice now. I was like, oh, I'm going to cancel the event then. And then I straight away saw that that was coming from my perfectionism shadow as well. It was just the opposite end of the polarized scale. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you. But yeah, the shadow that we have, the unconscious ways of being, will always try and sabotage us when we are stepping closer to our truth. So just know that that is normal. Know that is something that if it's aligned for us, when we choose into it anyway, we are so well rewarded for that. And it's been my experience that those are the trickiest things to really dive into this path. It's something that the women I work with always have as a sticking point. So if that is where you are, know that that is also perfect, and do reach out if I can help you in any way, see anything around that. In fact, I've got this quote here which I've just found that I shared the other day in my group, in my social media, and it's by Terence McKenna, and it says, "Nature loves courage. You make the commitment and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream and the world will not grind you under, it will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all those teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a featherbed." And I absolutely love that quote. That's probably one of my favourite quotes, but until I walked the path of soul, manifesting from the path of soul, it wasn't something that I was familiar with. I'd never fully experienced that featherbed, and I can tell you now that I have experienced a featherbed and it is so divine. So it is absolutely worth it, and still fear will show up, and the invitation, the deeper invitation in order to commit and devote yourself to the path of soul is to just take that aligned action anyway. And that is, where by aligned action I mean the action that is calling to you from soul, from your heart, from your belly, rather than your head, and liberating all that stops you from doing that. So identifying what it is and loving what it is that's stopping you, finding the courage to choose it. And once you give that love, usually you are able to continue to choose that path. So we're choosing through the fear, the shame, the discomfort, anything that feels uncomfortable, but if it's aligned, you will know. So the very fact that you're still here, I'm honouring you for even listening. That in itself is an aligned action. If you're looking for the next aligned action, then I would invite you to our free Manifesting with the Moon circle of sisters. That's a very good next aligned step for you if you are feeling called by the path of soul. So you are very welcome there. And this really is the path to manifesting your magic truly in alignment with your soul. So I'm going to move now on to questions that were given to me in the Facebook group. Every month we ask for questions around the topic that is going to be talked to either by myself or my guests. So if you have questions, if you want to be part of that process, if you want to get involved with asking questions for us to speak to, then do hop over to the Facebook group and get involved with that. But the first question that I'm going to speak to was from a lovely lady who actually attended one of the Manifesting with the Moon circles, so I'm very excited about that. She said, as what we want often changes over time, how do we know what we are seeking to manifest is really what we want? I can recognise more easily when I'm out of alignment, but it's hard to be clear what I want to ask to manifest. This is a great question. I think there's a lot of people, like women, who are going to be listening to this who are thinking the exact same thing. And I guess what comes to mind is that it sounds to me like you're at the point of the path where you're not yet quite clear on what it is you want to manifest. And I suspect that this is likely because you're approaching it from the head rather than the heart, which is what we're taught. Is totally understandable. Even if you've been kind of heavily embedded in manifestation self-help, that is still going to be different to what we're talking about here. And when we come from the head, we usually get drawn to questions, to creating in a way that asks questions like, what do I want and how will I create it? Which again is typically how we're taught manifestation in self-help. So the deeper invitation for you here and the aligned action would be to choose, firstly, I would say, to rediscover your body and let it speak to you. And again, as I said, the secret witch isn't used to doing this, but it's likely that because of being a secret witch, because I've walked this path as well, and I know this is what happened to me, it's likely that you've been kind of numbing out the messages that your body's been giving you. Probably, I suspect, because of what I was just talking about, which is where they may feel inconvenient to your mind. So when you begin to listen into your body and your heart, it'll become easier to know what you're manifesting is actually what you desire. But where you're at now, it's likely you'll only have a sense that what you're currently manifesting isn't what you desire. And that also is a great place to start, because knowing what you don't desire is just as important. And also noticing how that feels in your body so that you can compare the two. But yeah, I would invite you to really start listening in to your body and your heart, however inconvenient that feels. And I know, believe me, how inconvenient it can feel, because the things that come up for me to step into manifesting from soul are rather inconvenient. I can tell you that now. And yet they're worth it. So, because it's who I am. I mean, I personally, when I started the descent into soul, would never have imagined that I was going to come out of it talking to secret witches and declaring that I was a wild witch. So, you know, that in itself shows you throws you a curveball, soul does. So yeah, it's really interesting. And then just the other piece on that is the deeper invitation is to see that our material desires can change over time. So if we are approaching this from the head, from the kind of more material desires, that can change. However, if we are focused more in the direction of who we long to become, the invitation there is to really tune into who you long to be, who you came here to be, rather than the specifics of what you desire to create. So at this stage, again, usually accessed by the body, you may not be able to access things like desire and pleasure without being fully in your body, for example. So you'll need to be able to approach that and getting into your heart, getting into your body first. But just as an example, to vision the woman that you desire to be is to kind of vision how you'd like to show up in the world, how you'd like to feel, how you'd like to move, where you'd like to live, all of those questions that I asked in the meditation. And if that was kind of whizzing past too fast, you can always go back and pause and listen to those questions again, spend some time journaling around those, because really ultimately the biggest, deepest question is, what would you like to feel, rather than what you'd like to create. That's to start with. So for example, just going back to the vision for this particular podcast episode, the way that I created this magically was to have a vision with 5 words that would encapsulate the feeling of this episode. So those 5 words, and you can tell me, by the way, guys, if I've managed this. My vision for this particular episode was magical, courageous, intimate, expansive, and soulful. So that is what I showed up here to create, and that was my vision. And so really just kind of encapsulating that first, that who you want to be, that how you want to show up, is very key in being able to access the deeper soul desires as well. So again, it's not specific. I didn't know exactly how that would mean that I would show up as I was devoting myself to speaking from the heart rather than scripting things, but it definitely felt aligned for my soul to create in that way. And you can really see how the leaping into the abyss, not really knowing what you're going to create, creates that feather bed. And you find that feather bed. So I have actually managed to speak even though I've abandoned the script. So that just illustrates again how showing up in alignment with soul with that kind of 5-word vision can really be a different way of creating. So I hope that speaks to your question there. Now the next question is quite a heavy one and something that's also really, really valuable. So I'm really grateful that, or appreciative should I say, that this lady brought this question to the group, and it's such an important one, I think, from what they've said. So yeah, there was a situation, someone in my group brought to me about how a manifestation guru, like a traditional self-help guru, had taught a mother that when their child had died from cancer, that they had manifested it because they weren't manifesting well enough or carefully enough. And I just wanted to speak to this because this went straight to my heart, and it's just not a helpful way or a loving way of teaching manifestation. And it's really, it does really highlight why this particular journey that I share is totally different to the typical manifestation path. And so the lady that brought the question to me, she had 2 questions. She said, what would you say to someone whose child dies from cancer and they feel they are to blame because they didn't manifest hard enough or right enough? And please, can you speak to the idea of manifesting what we want on a personal level versus a soul/God's will level? So I'm going to do my best with this one because this one is a challenging question and yet feels very important that I address as well. So to start with, firstly, creating blame in this issue feels such a misuse of the teacher's power, feels such a misuse of magic in general, and is so unhelpful and unloving. If we remember that the first rule of magic is love under will, it feels like that was not a particularly helpful way for that person to explain manifestation to her. Secondly, I just actually want to really give space to that because that really is quite traumatic for someone who's gone through that experience. And so secondly, it feels that it's really important to clarify that we are each manifesting from our own soul will. So this mother, this poor mother, bless her heart, could not have changed her son's outcome in any way. Her son's soul will was to come here and touch the earth with love in a way that he did. It clearly did because she is feeling so much love for him. So we all can create in different ways, and so I'm just going to touch on the personal will versus soul will issue as she requested here. There's lots of different ways we can create, and there's lots of different ways that we'll be used to creating versus ways that we're not used to creating. The secret witch, for example, as I alluded to in this episode, can often be showing up in the way that she's creating with sheer personal will, i.e. force. So we can force our way through life with our personal will. That's just our human taking over on autopilot, creating whatever it wants from the mind. With universal will is another way that we can create, i.e. the way that I talked about in the spiritual ascension path, i.e. waiting for the universe to provide whatever we've wished for, which again is another shadowy way of creating. It's not a particularly helpful way of manifesting. And then there's this kind of more co-creative will way of creation, which is basically us expressing as all that we are. So in the co-creative way, which is the way of soul and spirit, it's basically combining the path of spirit and the path of soul. And by that I mean we're really allowing our soul will to express as us in alignment with God or the universe or love or whatever you want to call that label for the something greater. So our soul will is who we came here to be. To really clarify, the best example of the difference between the two and how I personally hold it, because obviously there's no right and wrong, everybody experiences this differently, we're all unique and we're all experiencing our own version of this, but how I hold it is best seen in Rumi's quote, "You're not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop." So to me, the ocean is universal will, love, God, divinity, whatever it is, the spirit that you want to call it. The ocean is that. And the drop is the soul will. So you're not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. And that is the best way that I can really describe us co-creating from soul and spirit. That's kind of the best metaphor I've found for it yet. Now, how this relates to the manifestation of death that we're talking about here is that this unique soul came here, this poor child came here to express love in his unique form, even though it was for a short time. So his unique soul will was still expressed. Now his mother is expressing her own unique soul will, her own unique form, and she can't have any influence over his soul's path. So she had no way to co-create his death from her either personal or soul will. So I hope that that kind of clears up that exploration there. If it doesn't, then do reach out to me and I want to explore that a little bit more. But just before I do finish on that one, lastly, this bit is less clear for me because, again, there's really no way of knowing how this actually works. But just to tie up any loose ends, my sense is that there's something our soul pre-agrees around our birth and our death. Because to me, it feels like these are about the only things that we don't necessarily create unless we kind of force them. And my sense is that these are kind of predetermined before we enter our soul contract here on earth. And again, it's more tricky to be clear around this. So that's really all I have on that. Because again, there's no way that we can really prove that. But it definitely feels a much more loving, a much more magical, a much more helpful way to focus than the way that the guru had shared with the other lady. And what he did share with the other lady, bless her heart, just didn't sit well for me. So I hope I have answered that and done some justice to it, because it was a very important question. Now we've got one more question, and again, I love this. It's one that I could probably dive into for hours, but we're just going to go very quickly on this. So we've got another question is, my heart and my soul are aligned for sure and have a wonderful vision. I'm keeping the focus and holding the energy. It would be the manifesting part that I would love Nicole to talk to with additional practical ways to manifest. Okay, so this is a great question. Again, as I said, there's kind of a never-ending possibility with this one, so I could literally be here for hours talking around it. But to keep it simple, and it's an important thing to acknowledge, so I'm really glad that you asked this question. The most important thing is that we create with intention. So just bringing it back to what I said at the start of this episode, is that intention is so critical, and that's what makes this path magical. So whatever you do, as long as you do it consciously and with intention, it will work. And my favourite quote is from Lisa Lister, and she says, "Every word you speak is a spell." And this is so true that I can't even tell you. So make sure that everything that you devote yourself to and every action you take is in alignment with the woman that you long to become. And everything you speak is creating your life. So this is what makes it really, really important to own everything that we are creating, including all the ways that we show up in victim. Because the second we do own all of that is the second that we take back our power. So for example, the fact that I'm owning how I was a victim to perfectionism that's what allowed me to choose out of that intentionally. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to say a few different books that would be really good for this as well. So just for fun, there are all sorts of spells and rituals, and I would highly recommend Lisa Lister's book which has got loads of different ideas and examples in there if you want to play with magic intentionally. And then I'm also just working my way through Aidan Wachter's book 6 Ways, which also has a lot of practical tips, and I'll put the link to both of those books in the show notes. Then also if you want to be really wild like me, then I've just tried out Sex Magic, which was super aligned for me. And I'm going to have the leader of the workshop on the podcast at some point to talk about that soon as well. So I'm not going to share any more on that. I'm just going to leave that little bit of curiosity there for you. Because it's quite bold. But really, any spell, any ritual, any action, any word, written or spoken, that is used with intention to create is how you are practically manifesting. So make it conscious by illuminating all that is unconscious and be very intentional, and then you can't go wrong. So just to really fully answer that question, to give a very specific example, I create often with a ritual that includes a sigil, and I will cast my circle open by drawing a ring around myself with sage or something like that. And I'll have a bay leaf and some essential oils that have particular properties that I want to use intentionally to enhance that particular ritual. So, for example, if I'm trying to energize or charge the sigil, then I will use something like lime, which is quite activating. If I'm doing something that's to do with feminine, I might use rose. And then I'll cleanse my space. I'll focus on my intention and create it so that it's really a clean one-line energetic capsule. And then I'll use the bay leaf to create a symbol. So I'll draw on the bay leaf, and the way I do that, this is creating the actual sigil, by the way, is I will remove all the vowels from my one-line sentence or one word, whichever feels most aligned for you, and I'll create a symbol from the remaining letters. And then I'll charge that with essential oils, and then I'll meditate on the symbol using candlelight. So I will meditate on the symbol, I will state my intention, and I'll harness my focus on the candlelight in order to charge it. And by the way, you can charge the sigil in any way you like as well. So going back to sex magic, another way that's quite wild is to activate it by orgasm. You should have seen my partner's face when I asked him if he'd mind me drawing a symbol on his head. But that might feel a little bit too edgy for you. So the best way is probably meditating, if that is feeling too edgy. And then you can burn the sigil. And then from there, you can close your circle and you're done. And then what I would do is make a note of this in my magical book of spells and notice when it comes to life, and also speak out my intentions. And the way I have my one-to-one clients do this is via an alchemy incantation, which they speak out daily, and it's the same for me. I decree my intentions daily. So ultimately, that's my way of doing it, but it is really down to your own intuition, and that's why the first kind of steps into this route really are about body wisdom, about discovery of soul, and that's probably the best way to really be able to dive into this path and begin to harness your own intuition to create your own rituals. So we've gone over on time, but that felt really, really good to address all of that. And hopefully those questions they felt perfect really to make clear the role of our soul will in creating and how that's usually left behind in so many teachings. So thank you, Magical Ones, for your questions. It's really helped to co-create this episode magically. I'm just going to leave a few inquiry points with you to finish this episode as an invitation into some inquiry about your own personal manifesting. So, number 1, what small visions can you focus on playing with, creating to hone your skills? Number 2 is, what fears are in the way of your manifesting, and are you willing to illuminate more about them and choose past them to step and devote yourself to the path of soul? And 3, maybe not, maybe you might be aware of what is the next aligned action it is that you need to take in order to manifest your soul's vision. Now, again, as ever, I'm really happy to help you more on that. So do just message me if you have any questions, or again, pop over into the Facebook group. Perhaps your next Align action is to join us in Manifesting with the Moon in the next month. It's always at new moon, so there's tickets available. I'm going to pop the link to that in the show notes as well. Hop over into our Facebook group, as I mentioned, to learn more. And I'll see you there. Lots of love. I absolutely loved this episode. My key takeaways are: the path of manifesting from soul is uniquely different to traditional self-help manifestation approaches, focusing on what is aligned for who you came here to be. The best way into this path is to go gently and slowly, starting with playing with small manifestations from the heart so that you can harness your power. You are already a powerful creatrix. You just need to learn how to harness your power in the direction of what is aligned for you. It's not always easy. Fear can jump in and try and take you off course. The invitation here is to listen deeper into your body and courageously choose past the fear if your heart and soul is telling you that something is in alignment for you. We must liberate all the shadow that's in the way of us manifesting our heart's desires. And only then can we take the aligned action required for us to co-create with the universe from soul. If you'd like to get the show notes and links for everything we've chatted about in this episode, head to www.secretwitch.co.uk. If you know a secret witch who would love this episode, please share with them to help them liberate themselves. And so you don't miss out on next week's episode, head to your podcast app of choice and hit subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.